Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Spawncast, episode 383. We were running a little late, so we're waiting for a few people to pop in here as we're going. But I figure, we'll go live and we'll get things moving along here. Of course, I have the usual Evan. Evan is with us tonight. How are we doing, Evan?
Doing all right.
Good to have Evan here. We got Mystic Ryan hanging out
for
with
the
us
moment.
tonight.
It's going to be an exclusive Click R3 episode.
Yeah, right. Click R3 plus one with Evan. It's Ryan over there with another 100 some odd Yu-Gi-Oh cards in front of him.
Are you sorting them right now? Is that what I keep hearing? It's a very distinct plasticky noise.
Yeah, because they're all in penny sleeves. So
yeah, I know that noise.
Yeah, there they are. Well, how many? Okay, how does this go when a new set comes out? How do you attack it? What's the?
Is this even a new set, or are you just like finding old shit and you're just like, this is gonna be great?
It's a reprint. It's of the Mega 10s that came out. So I got a few cases, and me and Terrell were just like ripping them and looking for the stuff we wanted. So got them all laid out.
How many cases did you order?
3.
Oh, okay. That doesn't seem as bad. I would expect you to be like, oh yeah, order all these booster boxes and.
Well, when you say cases, is it just a booster box or is it a case of booster boxes?
12 10s a case. As you know, what's funny is it's not even a good set, but like for me, where I'm just getting back into the game, it's all the reprints I can use. So that's what I'm doing. Maybe I should mute this.
They keep reprint. They keep messing up the value of your collection.
I barely have one. I'm really rebuilding it, John.
It's personal value. It's personal value.
Isn't that situation where you show up at the convention and you think you don't have anything, and then they offer you $500 for it?
No, that's only with Pokemon singles.
Oh,
yeah, no one gives a shit about Yu-Gi-Oh. Just this guy.
That's fine. Well, we do have. We actually had. It was an eventful week. Shockingly, I didn't think we would have as much stuff happen, but then we had leaks. We had budgets all of a sudden popping up, and we had ESRB ratings. So it was a strange one. And what's funny is a lot of this stuff I'm sure will come up on Click R3, but by then we'll be talking most likely about like a state of play and stuff and Tokyo Game Show. So it's already like there's stuff that we can cover now that will have basically expired by then almost, it feels like, with everything else hitting. So interesting couple of days here. And then we also had Nintendo and the Pokemon company suing Palworld, and a Vita game coming back that I feel like Ryan and me maybe are like the only ones that remember this thing. So,
I remember you talking about it back then when it came out, because I think you were playing it back when we were at the store. You're like, this game's crazy. It was,
it was on the Vita. I was playing it, and it was pretty good. It was like US against Japan, and we always lost because there were like none of us playing. So, but we have quite a stuff to go over here, so it should be a lot of fun. I do want to start though with just asking around, seeing what everyone's been up to. What's everyone been playing? What's been the move this week? Any games that we've been on to?
Well, after wrapping up Astrobot, I'm kind of between things right now, so I just finished that. I haven't really started anything back up.
You put your video up of the whole playthrough, right? How long was that playthrough?
Well, the actual playthrough, at least the console's like time counter says 19 hours, but the supercut that I put up came out to like a little over 3 hours. It's just cutting out all the fluff.
Okay, that's about right. I think
a lot of time
it was like 15 or 16 hours for me to do it. But then the kids were playing it too, so now I have like a 30+ hour count on Astrobot right now on my PS5 because they play like the same file, the same like account but different file. Oh, look at this. Sean pops in, of course, with his book as the avatar.
That's been his avatar for weeks.
You got. I mean, at least someone's here, John. At least. How do you not have OJ of all people? What?
I don't know. Was OJ? Was he streaming earlier? I don't know if he was. I'm not sure.
I thought I saw him streaming.
Oh, I don't know.
You even made him quit.
What's that? Well, are you here to plug your book, Sean?
Yeah, I'm. I saw it was just you three, and I was like, I guess I'll come on.
You'd hop on the Taco Bell intercom and talk to us.
You said if I plug your book, you were gonna come on.
Yeah, I guess. Do I sound bad? I'm using a different microphone.
You sound like I usually do.
Sound like a headset.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the new Turtle Beach.
Oh, is it? Okay. It's not bad.
The Ford.
We don't get as much like background noise, I guess, technically. So it doesn't pick up everything in your room.
Well, I have my TV low.
No. You could probably get away with turning it up then, because I don't think that microphone's gonna pick it up. But your book, Sean, up the Amazon bestsellers.
Amazon bestsellers. If you want to support, buy it on Castlemania Games. I make a little more money on there. Not that I really make any money on this, but that's the way to do it. Buy the one with the t-shirt, $39.99. Number one. Let's go.
You want to get the one now. You want to get the current one.
Yeah, you do, because there's going to be I noticed something that nobody else has noticed, and there are lots of people that have the book, and I was very annoyed by it when I saw it, but I guess nobody else has noticed it. So it's not
is it the misprint the guy on Twitter was talking about that I saw? It's like page 23 or something.
Oh no, really?
There's another one.
I haven't seen the book, so I don't know if it's there. I just saw someone online go, "Dude, there's a misprint," but grats on the book. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that nobody noticed, and I just happened to notice it last night. So that's getting fixed.
But yeah, so you want to get out there and get it now, because the misprint, it's like Final Fantasy VII misprint. Everyone wants that
worth
one.
more.
Yeah, you want to get the misprint now before they correct it. So you were like, I was one of the first ones to pick this thing up when it's a collector's item.
And all the Castlemania ones that are signed will also have the misprint. So there you go, pal.
Wow, and the signature. See,
Yeah,
and the
that's
signature.
super rare. Super rare.
Yeah, you get all the inside info here. It seems like you're making the rounds. People talking about it, interviews, all kinds of stuff. I see it popping up all over the place on Twitter right now.
Yeah, it seems to be doing pretty good. And it's not like, all it is I added something to a paragraph, and for some reason it like, for just one of the write-ups, like the end of the paragraph for some reason is superimposed on the top of the start of it. So it just looks weird, and like it looks like a mistake. But I mean, it's one fucking thing. Who really cares? But I'm fixing it. I gotta wait till Tuesday.
Okay. I gotta shout out Fransby, or potentially Todd Howard, is what the running theory is. They gifted another 50 memberships. So I want to say this now. If you just got one and you're in the chat right now, drop the thanks. Thanks. Yep. Thanks. Shout out to Fransby. Yep. I see it in the chat right now.
Thank your chat oiler.
Yeah. Fransby coming through, hooking a bunch of people up with, and they did another one. They did a 20 membership too. So Fransby's just handing out memberships all over the place. If you grab one, yep, give him a shout out there in the chat. Very generous of Fransby, or potentially Todd Howard. Again, we're not sure. I don't know if I've seen that image anywhere online. That might be like a image only in their camera reel. I don't know. Can't prove it. Can't prove it. And I do want to shout out Medallion, who's always in the chat, hanging out with us for all the different shows. And they say they're Spawncast for my birthday tomorrow. I are so old. So happy birthday to Medallion. Happy advanced birthday, I guess. Birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday to Medallion.
Early birthday is what normal people call it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sean. And actually, while I'm here, Sean, Ryan said he beat Astrobot. He had a great time with it. Awesome game. Up there is like one of the game of the year contenders.
Mm-hmm.
What game were you playing, Sean? Why? Because you play. I already know one of them, and I'm like, why? It's a random one that's going to come up. No one in the chat would guess this.
What, NFL 2K5?
Yes. No. NFL 2K5 with
modern rosters.
Well,
Stevie Richards was like, "Do you know how to do it?" And I was like, "I'm sure it's easy." So I started looking into it. And then I was getting annoyed because you have to do like there's a couple different versions. There's like somebody in like 2023 or 2022 had completely like they've added in like new animations, new pictures, new graphics, all sorts of stuff. But I didn't really want to mess around with that. I was just looking for a modern roster, and you have to like basically it's a memory card file, and you have to write it to a memory card. And I didn't know how to do that. And so he's on Mac too. So like it's completely different. But so then I was trying to figure it out, and then I was getting annoyed. So I was like, well, I'm going to figure this shit out. And then I finally figured it out, and then I started playing, and I was like, God damn, this game is still really fucking good. So now I've been doing a franchise mode in that.
I love that story starts by sounding like you just went outside to get your paper, and Stevie Richards was like on the other side of a fence, like, "Hey, man."
Well, no, because like he just got the Steam Deck OLED, and he bought a preload SD card with emu deck and all that sort of shit on there. So that'll probably make it easier because he's just got to go into the files and, I can walk him through that because all you're doing is replacing the memory card that's in the PCSX2 emulator with this one. So
yeah, that Steam Deck, that ROG Ally, there's like the emulation machines right now. They're expensive, but man, they come through for pretty much everything.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what I'm playing mine on the ROG.
So you played Astrobot. Now you're back to old games again.
Not necessarily. I played a game from what year is this game from? Let me see. I think it's 2019 maybe. Yes, 2019. Church in the Darkness, because it was on sale for like $1.99 on Steam.
Church in the Darkness. I've never heard of that one.
It's basically like if Jonestown was a video game. And like you're going to save someone, like your nephew, I think it is, from this cult that's in a remote area. It's fine.
I think I see it here. Maybe Church in the Darkness. Is it an action stealth game?
Yeah. Like it's fine. It's actually kind of interesting if you get caught by them because you don't necessarily, it's not like game over. Like sometimes they'll take you captive and then you can escape from that. But I don't know. It's definitely a lower budget title as far as the gameplay is concerned. It's all, I'm playing on like the standard difficulty. It's all sort of cone based vision and stuff like that. So like sometimes you can just like run around and stuff. You get a gun if you want to use it. I don't know. It says there's a bunch of different endings too. And like even when you restart the game, like things are kind of different. So I guess there's kind of some replay ability in that, but it's fine.
Sean, you said you were into fixed camera horror games, right? Have you looked into Hollow Body yet?
Hollow Body. Is that
one word?
Sounds like a Steam game. I have not, but I'll turn on my ROG here and take a look at it while we talk.
Evan, what you got going on over there? You just Space Marine? You still on that?
Still kicking it between Space Marine. I reinstalled Hell Let Loose because I'm really craving playing a single match for about an hour and a half. And yeah,
I was saying, aren't there? I thought those matches take forever. Yeah,
they're huge, they're long, but like it's one of the few games less that has that niche community that talks to each other, and it's not just racial slurs. We actually try to win the game by communicating, which is very hard to find in modern gaming. So I enjoy it.
Okay. I did pick up Dead Rising. Because it's a game I remember so fondly from back in 2006. So technically, I'm playing like a newer old game, I guess. But it is still Dead Rising with basically newer visuals and updated controls, but it still doesn't have lock on. That's the thing I've noticed. So there are times where I'm fighting like the psychopaths that you run into, and they completely strafe around you or jump over you, and you have to like swing the camera around to find them. But I got it on the PS5, and visually speaking, I think it does. It looks better, but there's still something about the 360 look. This is again 2006, kind of that crunchiness. I don't know, just added to it a bit. I mean, it does look a lot better. They do have the classic clothing and like costumes you can change into, and you're just running around in the mall, killing a bunch of zombies and saving survivors for the most part until like the next big mission that you do. And I've thrown a few hours at it, which I think for every 1 hour or 1 day in Dead Rising, it's like 2 or 2.5 hours. I think you could beat the whole run through in like 6 or 7 hours. Then you're supposed to go through it a couple of times. Sean, you're very familiar with the game. Obviously, I think you even played on the Wii, didn't you?
Yeah, I played the 360 and the Wii one. I've heard that I'm an idiot. That the AI is a lot better in this version. I don't know if that's true.
I assume you're talking about like the survivors, like pathfinding, be able to get to one spot. So you can control that. Like you hold that. It is a little strange. I think you hold down L2 and then you have to click in the R3 button. Yeah, click R3. See that right? What I did there? So you click that down, and then it'll tell them, okay, go that way, go there, or you click an R3 and they'll find. And I've watched them when I do this. They will try to avoid the zombies. They'll like strafe around them, or the zombies can still grab them pretty easily though. They're so, unless you give them the right items, they're so defenseless, and like they just go, oh no, and then they just stop and get grabbed by the zombie until you run up and punch them. But it is they're better. Like they're not like godly survivors about jumping over zombies and getting out of the way, but it's less aggravating. It is. So although at times when they are getting attacked by a zombie, I'll pick up a massive park bench and just swing it, and I'll end up hitting them too, and they'll go flying. So friendly fire still on, I guess. But I'm enjoying it. It's a game I throw an hour at here or there as I go, and do some survivor saves or missions, and then I put it down for a bit. So I think it's just going to be one I'm going to play probably for the rest of this year, on and off as I go, and complete. Probably, I think, to get like the best weapon and other things, it's like 3 or 4 playthroughs for a lot of people. So I'll probably just do that. And it feels like a good Halloween wintertime game anyway.
How much is it? 50?
It's $50. Yeah. There's the physical copy isn't out for 2 months though.
Yeah.
Does it still have the same trophy where you have to kill like a ridiculous amount of zombies?
It's the
I didn't
like 50,000 or something.
That's the
nuts.
Population of the entire town that they tell you at the beginning. It's like 53.
I didn't look at the trophies. I should.
I wonder if that's
right now
still
I
on
have
there.
killed 500 some odd zombies or something. So
You're not getting that then.
No, it'll take a while. We'll eventually get to a point where you can get like the car, and like there's just massive amounts of zombies you drive through towards the end. So maybe that's what you're supposed to do. But yeah, I had to look at the trophy list to see if that one's still on there. I assume it is.
I remember that's one of those super early 360 achievements that had so much notoriety for being just a huge grind.
Yeah,
And they have stuck with it again.
they also have the ability to change the subtitle size, which that was a big thing back then, is you couldn't read it if you had like a standard FTV. So now you can do all kinds of stuff to it. You can change the colors of them, put like lighting behind it. So I don't know if that was them just kind of like nodding towards that, or them actually leaning into accessibility, but it's all there. So it's pretty easy to change up the experience so you can actually read the text on screen. And I also put in about 3 hours to Plucky Squire, which I started the game and I was enjoying it. And then I started to notice that I thought I was in the tutorial at the beginning where they're like showing you how to do stuff. And like on the 3rd hour, I feel like I'm still in the tutorial. So I don't really know what's going on right now. I don't know.
What I heard about that game is that it
Isn't
holds
there
your
like
hand the entire way.
There's some like bad game breaking glitch in one of the chapters I heard.
Oh, I haven't run into that yet, if that's the case. Okay. I mean, the concept is cool. Like, it's interesting. The look of it, it's kind of like it's telling it like a storybook, and then it starts breaking the 4th wall as to like how your character perceives the world. They show that in trailers, right? Where you're like become 3D and they go into the book. And they just keep telling me, go here, do this. Here's how you do this mechanic. And they introduce new ones, but they don't really let you then figure it out on your own. It's just constant, like, okay, do this now do this. Okay, now we're on to the next chapter, and we're going to show you this little cutscene that reads like a storybook. Like, that's fine. The presentation's good. I just haven't, I don't know if this game is like 20 hours long and I'm in the tutorial still. I don't think it is. So if that's the whole way, that is a little disappointing based on what I was hoping it was going to be. So that's, I don't know, about 3 hours in. We'll see. So I got a little bit of time. It is on PlayStation Plus, so people can just download it and try it at this point.
It's on Extra. You have to be sure you're on that middle tier to get it.
PS Plus Extra. There we go. Yeah, but it's on there, so if you have that service, you can just download it and try it yourself. But I do like the look of it. The aesthetic's good. It has basically the controls like a top-down sort of Zelda game. So otherwise, it's I think it's worth a download at the very least.
Real quick, back on Dead Rising. It's 53,594 zombies. It is an achievement on Steam, so I imagine it is something you have to get. Currently, 3.2% of people who own the game on Steam have earned it.
Wow. Okay.
That's pretty high.
That's actually not bad. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that people have probably put like 100+ hours in that game because you just play through it, do new runs, the whole thing. So
it's not even the worst. 1.6 has survived for at least 7 days.
Oh, so that's harder than the 53,000 kills.
Yeah. Oh, it's pretty good. Too much text though in Plucky Squire. There's a lot of text. It is basically it's a heavily narrative driven game. I will say that. It is a lot of text and then a lot of just like storytelling happening. So, but again, it's an interesting concept. I at least like what I'm seeing. It just the gameplay isn't clicking so far. Okay, let's go. Yeah, let's go over to some of the topics we have here. Yeah, I'm just gonna start with Concord. I'm sorry. I'm sorry with that right away because this is This is something else. This took over the internet the past 2 days. I still have some questions about some of this because it seems so far-fetched and hard to believe. But at the same time, if it turned to be true, I actually would not be shocked because, as we know, Concord did not do well. It's gone after just 2 weeks on the market. A lot of questions as to what happened there and what's going to happen to Firewalk. Well, some of the information that we're getting out now comes from Colin Moriarty on his Sacred Symbols PlayStation podcast. And during that podcast, he described the budget, which is from a source. He seemed very confident about this source, by the way. He hammered that home as like, this is like, I guess, a person within the Concord development or at PlayStation who was in charge of it. Basically, someone who was intimately involved with the development of this game. Seemed very confident in that. The budget, while it was kind of split up the way it was described, amounted to a total of $400 million. It seemed to be $200 million seemingly before it shifted over to PlayStation, and then PlayStation put another $200 million in. And some of the stuff that was mentioned with seemingly Herman Hulst, who is all about this game. It's the Star Wars for PlayStation. It's like that kind of property is this massive thing. It's the future for them. And it's gone. It's that quick. $400 million. First of all, people are really questioning that number. And I get it because you look at the number of credits, you put it into perspective that things like the most expensive game, Ryan, is Spider-Man 2, $315 million within, as that we know of publicly. I'm sure there are other games that will trounce that later on, but that's the most expensive game, right? So this game being described to us right now is almost Horizon and Last of Us Part 2 combined, off by like $20 million, something like that. First of all, do people believe that $400 million number? We'll start with that.
It's tough to say. I think it's really important to note that it was one source. He seems very confident, and I'm sure Colin does his due diligence. I think it's important to remember it's one source. Typically, you want at least 2 or 3 to back it up, and
right.
That's the one thing that can't be corroborated outside of like we had Ethan Gatch of Kotaku chime in about like the other aspect of that story, not the budget. I think Del Walker responded to that tweet saying that he doesn't really believe that number either. So I would say I almost feel like the number's maybe not nearly as important as just what we learned about the development cycle, assuming a lot of it does add up. I mean, it's an expensive game. I didn't think it would be 400 million. That sounds like a ton of money, obviously. But whether it was like 3 or 4, I find is maybe not nearly as pertinent as maybe finally getting some insight as to how did this thing go through the finish line, get through what every game goes through, mock reviews, any sort of feedback loop internally. It's like, how does this not get addressed and how does the game come out the way that it is? Which it sounds like there was a culture at Firewalk, and that was just all about like yes men, nobody really questioning what they're doing, or maybe, taking a step back and thinking maybe we should, look at the characters again or think about the gameplay loop. And we don't have like exact details, but it sounds like maybe that's how this thing got to where it was. That, and apparently the game was in really rough shape just 18 months ago. Now, this is like a really alarming thing to me, if only because it's like the one thing that can't be said about Concord is that it was like a technically sound game. When you think about all the AAA stuff that comes out nowadays and it's like kind of half baked or it needs multiple patches to sort of really get cleaned up, like Concord was technically sound. So it's actually kind of surprising to think that 18 months ago that the thing was almost nothing. And maybe that's where a lot of the budget came from, is all that outsourcing to make sure that it did end up.
Finish line.
Yeah. But it still doesn't really address like, okay, well, how does the game come out? And, it's this widely, like the marketplace is this rejected it so harshly,
apparently that $400 million does not include the purchase price of Firewalk, which is I was like, you know what? Okay, maybe. Okay, throw some money in for Firewalk. Okay. Once I heard that, I was like, all right, I have no idea how they got to that number, if that is the case. You're right, though. I think what you're going to see now are many outlets looking into this after hearing that number, one way or the other, either to prove it or disprove it. Because if you prove it, that's a pretty big number to prove. If you disprove it, okay, you're going to get obviously a lot of eyeballs on your story that way. It seems like Kotaku is going to follow up. But you're right, Ryan. The thing that it was Ethan from Kotaku did seem to corroborate was the atmosphere, the culture there. And I mean, it was described, Colin said on his podcast, as toxic positivity, which I'm sure Sean heard that and immediately woke up hearing those words, that phrase. But you're right. That is very concerning because, I mean, after hearing this, and they're not going to come out and just tell us outright. I mean, should Herman Hulst really be looking at these multiplayer games and judging and greenlighting them himself at this point? Like, that just seems like such a colossal miss that you immediately evaluate the process.
I mean, that's what I always thought with Concord is like, it's not going to really slow down their live service output because the thing that is always like misunderstood with Sony's live service is that well before Concord came out, they've already sort of culled their portfolio. Like they had a lot of layoffs and studio closures and things back in like late 2023. They've already like kind of had this reckoning internally with like now learning like, oh, live service is like a lot tougher than we thought. So there's that aspect to consider. But knowing that Herman really championed the game, and let's say it did lose upwards of $300-400 possibly $1 million and they acquired the studio. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have a lot to answer for. I mean, especially because he was promoted, you know? And initially when he was promoted, I thought to myself, well, that's not a bad idea, right? Because this is somebody that was a managing director at a studio, sort of has that on the ground, like firsthand experience. He wasn't a super corporate guy in the sense that like he came from an outside industry or he was always in the sort of C-suite level, not really sort of in the nitty gritty of like managing game studios. And so he sort of had that grunt work at Guerrilla for a long time. So I always thought like that's a good choice. But, you know, when you make this kind of call and you get this kind of result, I just it's baffling to think that's the problem. How could this possibly happen? Sony typically has a good eye for this stuff too. I mean, obviously they ship misfires like any other publisher does, but you know, they've had a decent track record going into like late life cycle PS4 with a lot of these, you know, big AAA multi-million dollar video games. So how in the world did nobody stop and think to ask, like, maybe we should reevaluate what's going on here?
Well, it seems like if you did think that, there was a problem. that's what they're describing. It's like, no, you can't say that out loud kind of thing.
Well, and that's they're not afraid to. They're not afraid to cancel games either. Like that's the whole point of the late 2023 thing. Like Twisted Metal died, London Studio closed, Last of Us Online shut down, you know, and obviously mass layoffs. Like the company is not afraid to like say, all right, we're going to take the L. So it's like, I just can't believe this is one they truly believed in. Actually, do you remember like Christopher Dring of GamesIndustry.biz during like one of the recent microcasts, he had mentioned that he'd heard like, oh, the company was sort of aware, at least after the initial, you know, pre-order period and the beta, it's like, oh, well, it's actually not going to do well, but to still ship it. I mean, I don't,
maybe they were like, it's just the beta. Nah, once we get it out there in marketing, it's cool.
They can't be that dense, can they?
They can.
Maybe.
I mean, the only thing you have to go off of is the fact this game came out and then left 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we have to go off of right now. And that is, that's not good. And, you know, you'd hear stories at times where big executive comes by and evaluates the game and they leave mad. Like, what was it? Shuhei went to, Sony Santa Monica, did not like God of War and was like, oh, what is this?
No, it was Demon Souls.
Demon Souls. Thank you. Demon Souls. Yes.
It's important to note too. It's one person's judgment, right? Like Shuhei Yoshida he was at the time in charge of those kind of decisions of like, are we going to green light and publish this game? He did not like Demon Souls. Now we all know, like, if he like said no to that game, that would have been a pretty bad call. So it happens.
Well,
but to let it go like, all the way through.
Right. When he goes there and looks at it, I don't like this game and it's just never coming out, or I don't like this aspect of the game, maybe this should be changed. I feel like those are some of the nuances or small things we don't hear about. But the fact that he goes there and isn't like, this is the greatest thing I've ever played in my life. Like we're just gonna sell this for $120. Like they're just saying all the right things about it. It's immediately like, I don't know if I like this that much. Why don't we reevaluate, or maybe this won't come out? And it's like immediately it has that sense of, oh, okay, maybe we can actually talk real about this stuff in front of us. So the fact that it's the again, toxic positivity, but just the yes man thing is, now I am concerned about fair games. Like that is immediately once I saw it, I was like, oh, fair games. I know. Or even like to me, now you just start questioning any judgment that was made around multiplayer games in the last few years.
Well, I guess the important distinction is that the company culture at the studio level, or is it the culture at SIE?
Okay,
because
sure.
again, it's like SIE is generally still good at managing a portfolio of games and studios, and so I'm not sure how reflective it is of, like, I guess both. It's probably a little bit of both sides. Obviously, SIE is the one that still let the thing go all the way through, but that's what's so bizarre about it, because normally they will step in and say no to this and that, and they'll shut things down. So, and it does seem like this was very much Herman's game. Herman, I think he went on record saying he did a site visit to Firewalk, like in the very early days, like did a play test of the game, like in, I want to say like it was 2018 or 19 or something, which they must have had something playable back then. And this was also right before he became head of PS Studios in 2019, if I remember correctly. So this is one of those things where it falls like directly on him, the entire way through.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing now is if you're Herman Hulst internally right now, man, that's gotta be tough right now to look at that and be like, wow, I really made us buy them. And now honestly, I don't really know what you do at this point, because Concord, I don't think it's coming back. And in fact, based on the Kotaku article, it sounds like Firewalk is probably like I would assume at this point getting disbanded, and maybe they absorb some of the talent that they maybe can use in some studios. And I don't see a path forward for Concord without another $100 million.
Yeah, that's what we discussed on Click R3. It's like, well, okay,
yep.
It's still a group of talented people. You could definitely like get another game out of them, but it's like, are you going to let them do that when it's like it's going to take another 5, 6, 7 years, another multi-million-dollar project, and now they have this demon chasing them, which is you're going to see headlines left and right, videos, articles. Oh, the Concord studio, here's their next game. I think the better outcome actually is either absorbing them or, shutting the studio down. I don't like saying that, but it's like,
hey,
do you really let him do another game?
No, I mean, well, the director already stepped down. He's
that's it. Yeah,
he went down to a support role, so he's not even like leading the way anymore. So
they don't even
bare minimum he had to step down or go away or something. Then
well, they don't even know what's going to happen. And if the culture problem is at the studio level, then actually you kind of have to clean shop and do something. At that point, maybe no, they should not get another game if that's kind of how the feedback loop was, which was there's nothing. Yes to everything that there has to be some arguments, there has to be some tough calls, and there has to be a lot of heavy changes throughout the development process. So,
well, what if we just said it was Herman Hulst's game, right? If you're a mid-level developer and he's going around checking the game out, and part of the game is just not a good idea, I mean, that I'm sure for many of them that's kind of tough to be like, Herman, this isn't good. I know you just had a whole thing, a big rah-rah speech 5 minutes ago to the studio. This isn't good. What are we gonna do? You just kind of go, okay, whatever. I'm getting paid. I'm just gonna go ahead and make sure Star Child, his animation's right.
So yeah, the other angle we can touch on, right, is like how this, like they really believed in this and thought it was going to be like a Star Wars level source. Here's the thing, that now makes, like, again, it's one source, but my God, does that not sound like very believable when this thing had a separate animation like series they were doing, obviously the in-game vignettes that Firewalk was going to do, the Amazon secret level TV show. This thing had the special DualSense. It had merch go up right away on PlayStation Gear, the Gear Store. Concord
more merch than Astrobot.
Dude, it's like there's no doubt in my mind that something went wrong here in terms of like they genuinely thought maybe we have something.
That's correct. I feel like if you just asked anyone, brought anyone in who wasn't in that studio, they had to do a focus group tested this. It's so weird. I don't get it.
It's like, how does it get past like focus groups and mock reviews? I mean, the other angle is like it's the same with Redfall. Like mock reviews showed that game was like gonna be like a 7 out of 10 or something, and that was like the mock reviews. That's not saying Redfall was poised to be a 9 out of 10. But if, mock reviews say, hey, the game actually might be just kind of okay, and then it comes out and it's actually really bad. So you can see how there's like a slight disconnect there, but I still just can't fully grasp how.
I almost wonder if the focus group testing wasn't even good, and they were like convinced, like, oh no, they're laughing with us. They're not laughing at the game. They're like stuff like that, right? Just to keep them. Don't worry, Herman. Don't get mad. I don't know.
Find an open bar at that group, just like sitting there, just getting completely wasted while playing.
to think if that number ends up getting corroborated and it is true. That's tough. That's tough. That's 2 AAA sized games almost for Sony there. That's just like poof, gone.
Yeah.
8 years development time too. I mean, it wasn't like full scale development, but even if it was 4 years of full scale development, it's like,
well, apparently it was what, 2 years of full blown production. Apparently 18 months. That I think would maybe shed some light on like maybe that's why there wasn't as much.
Dude, you know what would make this worse? You know what would make this worse is if we find out that this took up resources from some other Sony studios, and that's why we're not hearing anything right now from them.
Well, I mean, we could check the credits and see who worked on it. But if there's a lot of outsourcing, I can't imagine it would go to that many different PS studios. The support studios they have would be Malaysia, Nixus, Valkyrie Entertainment, and their role is to support. So I'm sure they touched the game probably. I haven't looked at the credits or anything.
Yeah. I think it was like almost 2,000 people or something that worked on Concord. And then like 3,500 worked on Spider-Man 2. So it's like, still, how did they get to that 400 million? It's crazy.
I mean, it probably wasn't 4 mil, I guess, when you consider what that 200 number was before Sony came in not fully before they came in, as in before they were like acquired or something like that.
Right. Before they acquired. Yeah.
And probably Monsters foot the bill for some of that. So we're splitting hairs. Like I don't, whether it's 300 or 400, it's a ton of money.
We'll see. I assume we're going to hear more about this during what's going to be, I think, a very hectic week coming up with Tokyo Game Show, but we will keep an eye out. We'll keep you guys updated. Click R3 is happening this week. We're going to wait until the unannounced at this time state of play Monday, most likely. Look for that announcement. State of play to happen we're thinking Tuesday. So we'll most likely set things up for later on that night, have it by Wednesday for you guys. And we'll keep an eye on this story because I feel like it's going to continue to evolve here throughout the next week. Let me talk about the Switch 2 situation here. So if you guys haven't heard, Nintendo is working on another system. Very, very likely to be called the Switch 2. Okay. Not breaking any ground there, but that's kind of the belief right now is that they're going to put a good old 2 on the end and just be more traditional about it. But in the chaos that happened with apparently factory leaks and forum stuff, we had images that got posted up. Now, 2 of them were of a shell and then of a motherboard, like a little board next to the Joy-Cons. And then the other ones were 3D renders. Now, these are renders apparently from an accessory. Like a person put them together from dimensions they had from an accessory maker. And a lot of times the accessory, how this works, the accessory, people who manufacture accessories like cases and things for the Joy-Cons and screen protectors, they'll get dimensions of the product, but they won't get full images necessarily of it, so they can try to measure up and line up their cases and stuff. It happened with the Switch OLED, for example, because the front bezel shrunk a bit. They were basically told that, hey, this is kind of the screen dimensions. So that was a thing. And in this case, it seems like the dimensions then got translated into sort of a mock-up rendering of it. And because of that, we know that it is larger than the current Switch, slightly smaller still than the Steam Deck. There were several images that were shared of it, and it is getting larger. But when they showed the Joy-Cons, it does indeed look like they're going with magnets on the side and a kind of a click-in setup. So it's not going to have rails. It's just going to just click in. Just click. That's it. Which, I mean, they could probably play around with the logo that would normally slide together. It can maybe just click together, which is fine. But then we had the motherboard image that does appear to show 2 USB ports, one on the top, one on the bottom. So you can finally charge it when it's standing up. Any excitement? Any excitement for the Switch 2?
Like that was where you wanted to end that off.
Well, I mean, I can hit you. I can hit you with the other part about this. The specifications got reconfirmed. The only thing we're waiting on right now is the clock speeds. I will tell you this though, Nintendo might have something here with this new system. If indeed it shows up with halfway decent clock speeds, like I think it seems like it will be stronger than the Steam Deck actually. So there you go. And it's almost going to be like, it sounds weird to say this, but when docked, it might be like PS4 Pro-ish territory, which is very interesting with NVIDIA and some of the technology they have with DLSS and ray tracing. The thing about this, I wouldn't be shocked if the Switch 2 actually had a better handling of ray tracing than the current base PS5. As weird as that sounds.
I like this because we build ourselves up and then it drops, and they're like, we downclocked it a lot because we wanted battery
That's
life,
the thing.
and then it's just not that great.
The clock speed is going to be the big determining factor here, but handheld mode, I don't know. If it's in handheld mode, and we assume it's 1080p screen, maybe it is 720p still, or 800p some weird resolution, right? We play handheld mode now, and some of these games are like 540p or something. Like Pokemon is like smear like Vaseline on the screen half the time, but people will play it for hundreds of hours. And if you tell them, hey, this new system's going to be 4 or 5 times as powerful as that Switch you're holding right now, they're like, all right, cool. All right, great. That's all I want to know. I see people compare the Switch 2 to the PS5 and the Xbox Series, and most people who have a Switch now are like, well, what does that mean for this thing? Well, it's 4 times as powerful. All right, cool. That's it. That's all I want to know about. That's how I kind of compare it now. How is that compared to the current Switch?
That's all it needs to be. I mean, you give it enough headroom, and a lot of the stuff that people are already fine playing with right now, it's got plenty of room to start giving you some of the stuff that really is still relevant nowadays as far as like how games even look, especially for handheld mode. It doesn't have to be a 1080p screen. These games don't have to display in 1080, not in handheld mode, certainly. What I'm more surprised by is why there's still no reveal. It's like when this thing, if this thing's on the assembly line, if it's getting manufactured, any company wants to get ahead of that stuff. The very reason why we have this, we shouldn't be having the story. We should have had a reveal. You want to get ahead of this stuff, and the last thing you want is like potato phone images of like an actual shell off the assembly line. So it's like I'm more surprised that they just still have not said anything. I mean, we're kind of like right in that it should be happening any moment. You would think.
The belief has been set. People have really hyped themselves up for September. And I mean, it could have happened, obviously, as possible. They did that weird double feature direct at the end of August that was like, well, why did you put an indie world and a partner? You could have just spread them out. So that kind of lined up expectations of, okay, it's because they're opening up September. But that happened right at the end of August. So technically, they could have moved stuff up to make room for October. That's very possible. So I don't expect a Switch 2 reveal this month, shockingly. A lot of stuff's happening this week with their partners with things like TGS. So I'm kind of thinking October. And at this point, Nintendo is more on line of let's sell as much software as we can. Their hardware is kind of falling off a bit. I mean, we've seen it in the recent sales report, but it's hard to sell more systems when you've crossed the 140 million mark. It just is. Like, you just run out of people to sell the thing to. So they're going to do well with software, but if they show a trailer, it's got to show that it's backwards compatible. Hey, look, all the games you're buying now, they'll still work on this, so buy a bunch of them for the holiday. And I think they're fine with that. Sell as much software as possible. So I think people were, I don't say pie in the sky, man. They were hyping themselves up for that September reveal, and it's just I'm not envisioning that.
What about the name, John? Because this is I would consider unusual.
Switch 2.
Tack a 2 on there. It's not really Nintendo. Kind of.
Yeah, that's true.
Some would argue all like 2DS, but like that's sort of a great easy play on words. And I mean, this is pretty much nobody will chronologically name consoles outside of Sony. That was actually something Microsoft historically wanted to not do because it would have looked weird at the time to have an Xbox 2 against a PS3. So is Nintendo like really nervous with nomenclature here because it can burn them with like Wii U?
I feel like they look at the Switch brand as so strong they don't want to let it go right now. Like it would be weird to be like, you know what, that was cool. We're gonna do something, call it something completely different. We're not gonna use the Switch name. So then they kind of run out of options immediately. Okay, what do we name this thing for to keep Switch in the title? And they're like, well, I mean, PlayStation was like, whatever, put a 2 on it and call it a day. And that was it, right? So maybe they don't care as much. Like, whatever, if there's a PS5 or PS6, we've already kind of been over here doing our own thing. You just have to know that it's the next Switch. That's all we need you to know. And maybe that is because you do like new Nintendo Switch. I guess Super Nintendo Switch.
I was always partial to that name, Super Nintendo Switch. But maybe maybe they're just dead nervous about like if it doesn't sound like obvious enough. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
that's why
switch
you
up,
wanted to
switch
up.
me, the switch with 2 eyes.
Yeah, but this does sound really close to just Switch Lite, which that's still part of the same family. It's just an extra word. So it could I mean, they already confused so many people with the Wii U, making everyone think it was just a tablet for the longest time.
Oh, Switch U and they spell it Y-O-U. Oh man, that would be crazy. Yeah, so Switch 2 is it's basic. It works. They just got to make the marketing right, the logo look correct. A 2 with the big Switch logo next to it. That's you probably don't have to complicate it, which by the way, I did notice this one. Many people saw that rendering and they're like, "Oh, it's just an upgraded Switch." It's like,
what else was it going to
yeah,
be?
I hope so. I think people were really hoping Nintendo would do something weird with it as well. Like still kind of stay in the lane of the Switch, but give it 2 screens or just something really strange. And I'm like, do you need Nintendo to do that? Like, can't we just let them give us what we want? Which, to be honest, I just want a better running Switch personally, because the current Switch is is struggling right now. It is. Everything that goes to it is like, whew, this is like if we tried to keep that base PS4 around into 2021 and that was all Sony had. That's kind of what it feels like right now. So it's tough for it right now. I want an upgraded Switch because we never got the Switch Pro. That's it. And then they can go off and do some weird stuff. I don't care. Just as long as I have that nice new NVIDIA chip that is targeting their 4K, I guess, on output docked and a nice handheld experience, I'm good.
If there's ever a time to be conservative, this would be the platform jump to do. They don't have to reinvent the mold here. They have something that works.
Yeah. You know what threw me off a little bit with this one was the PS5 Pro. The reason I say that is because the price is $700 without a disk drive for that thing. So $800+ all in, disk drive, even the stand. Now I'm almost wondering if Nintendo, you asked where the reveal is. I almost wonder if Nintendo's been holding back this whole thing for a bit because they're trying to figure out part pricing right now, or they have been trying to figure that out. Because I saw that sticker shock was like, wow, man, parts really still are just expensive. Like it's not easy to get these things together at the price points they probably want. The fact that the Switch OLED is still $350 and they've said to investors they make less money on that than they do on the Redbox Switch at $300. Mm-hmm. That brings into question. I feel like that I assume this thing's going to be $400. This new Switch. I'm not putting out the possibility that it's more than that.
You think there's a possibility they might come out and do like $449?
Yeah, I can't put that out. I can't say that's not a possibility. And I also can't say it's not a possibility if they do 2 SKUs, maybe to try to test the market a bit. Like Sony with their PS5 and their PS5 digital, 500, 400. But maybe Nintendo puts more storage in it or just something else to make it feel like it is worth that extra money just to see how the market responds to it. Because more people buy, although there's more functionality, the Switch OLED, for example, than the Switch Lite, despite the Switch Lite being $200. Well, technically it doesn't dock, sure, but that price difference is usually still enough for people to go, all right, I'll just get the cheaper version, whatever. People opt to buy that. So maybe we are in the sense of you could get away with a $500 Switch too, because we just saw the sticker shock of the PS5 Pro at $700 and consoles are just expensive.
The thing that I always like to circle back to is that this will be a new platform for them. So they're going to have to, well, you would think they would want to go back to the subsidy model, whereas PS5 Pro, as we all know, it's a mid-cycle console that in theory, they don't have to subsidize it. That's why that sticker shock is what it is. I still thought like, oh, $650, and it's like, no, $7. It's like, that's $7. They're putting profit into that box. Like they're not going to lose money.
Interesting thing, Ryan.
They don't want to lose money on it.
You're bringing up Sony acting right now with the PS5 Pro like Nintendo, because Nintendo always tries to make money off their system day one. They never want to take a loss on it.
And that's true. Nintendo almost always earns profit immediately on platforms. They're like they go against the grain of what Sony and Microsoft typically do over, God, it's like every console cycle now at this point.
Yeah.
They always earn money out the gate. So I guess you're right. Yeah, you're right. They don't subsidize like the other two.
That's what's throwing me off, because I'm like, would they? Because they do target a general audience, right? They target like the household and multiple Switches per house. And would they really go $500 for Switch 2. I still feel like 400 is the sweet spot, but they might. I wouldn't be shocked if they had 2 SKUs or something like that, just to see how this would work.
What a weird environment, man, to see a new Nintendo console ship at like possibly a $499 price tag. It'd be an upper SKU, probably.
I'm telling you though, if that thing shows up and it legitimately can do a lot of stuff that we see even like a PS5 or an Xbox Series do right now, with marginal trade-offs when it comes to what resolution and things that people go, I don't really notice it now. Man, that would get real interesting in the console space real fast. If all of a sudden Nintendo gets Final Fantasy 17 when that comes out day one, it's like, whoa, okay, this is interesting. The Madden show up, Call of Duty shows up every year, and the trade-offs aren't as substantial as they have been in the past because we were at that diminishing return point. It does kind of seem like Nintendo would be almost in that perfect lane of just, it's the system then.
They do have a lot of upside for that. Yeah. This thing will now be sort of power aligned with everything else to now probably get a lot of third-party stuff that they otherwise we're not going to see without like massive compromises.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing, is they got to figure that out. And their partner relations with like EA, for example. And I mean, Take-Two's gotten a bit better, but they gotta figure some of that stuff out, because they just get like FIFA and miss out on Madden and all of that. So they figure it out. That could be very interesting. So I am fascinated to see what they show up with.
Call of Duty.
Absolutely fascinating. Call of Duty be big for them. Yeah. But not this year. I'm thinking next year though. Next year they'll have Call of Duty. So we'll see. We'll see. Although maybe they get Warzone on there sooner. Okay, let me go over to, Ryan, I'm gonna bring this up. Freedom Wars.
Yeah.
Freedom Wars is coming back, man. I could not believe this. This trailer dropped at like 9:00 at night or something. 8:30 at night. It was late, wasn't it?
Japan announcement. So
okay,
whatever time it was there.
I saw it popped up. I was like, there's no way. And then I looked online and people were excited for it. I was like, wow, people did play this game.
I mean, that was not on my bingo card. That was not on my bingo card.
This was a Sony published game, though, wasn't
it? They own the IP. Yep.
Oh, so Bandai's doing this one.
So the way that this worked out, we learned this from the PlayStation blog. The studio that developed it, Dimps, the series director at the time said like they always wanted to do a sequel, never had the chance to do it because it's not their property, obviously. They said an opportunity came up, they got the license, and from that point they were allowed to find another publisher. So not to misconstrue it, it's not something where Sony directly went to Bandai Namco. They gave the IP back and said you can, in theory, do something with it. Then Dimps went and found, Bandai Namco stepped in and they said they'd be the publishing partner. So in theory, this is Sony saying, go ahead and do something with it, which we've had a few times throughout history with PlayStation, mind you, where they've sold back the IP and then they can kind of, obviously they'll do whatever they want with it. But in recent years, like one other example that I think a lot of people missed was Fanavision. Fanavision, they relicensed again, and that came out for PSVR 2 by, I don't know, I forget what studio it was, but that was kind of, I think, a little unusual at the time. In this case, it's coming back, licensed by SIE, PS4, 5, Switch, Steam. This is now the third Nintendo Switch game that they're allowing to release, because that would have been MLB, Lego Horizon, and now Freedom Wars. I don't know about you, but I think this is a great announcement. Like, in light of something like Astrobot, which is this parade of PlayStation IP, and it's reignited that conversation of, man, you guys have so many properties. Why aren't you doing something with it? My thing is always, well, there's just, it's a resource problem. How many, there's only so many studios that can like do these things. So it's like the option is license it out, let somebody else do it. And it sounds like they might actually be humoring that. I never would have thought Freedom Wars would come back. The PlayStation Vita exclusive Freedom Wars.
Like, I never saw that coming.
No. So, I mean, if this is like a way to get those games, like give them a new lease on life, I think this is awesome. I don't know about you, but it's like, all right, let's hit up Soul Sacrifice. Golden Abyss is Golden Abyss is more of a straight up like PlayStation IP. I'm not sure they would allow that to go to Switch or anything, but I think this is maybe opening the floodgates a little bit.
Evan, what do you think about you on this? It's on Steam.
I mean, I'll take a look at it.
Okay. Might have Evan in here. What if we got crossplay? That'd be cool if we had crossplay and stuff.
Yeah, co-op.
Yeah, go online and play.
It's got to impress me though, because I mean, for the most part, it just sounds kind of like what a standard game in this genre would feel like, and if it's just kind of basic.
Well, the first thing they do is you're sentenced to 1,000,000 years in prison.
Yeah, but that doesn't get like that's just a mediocre side thing. The mechanics are what matters to me for what actually happens in the game.
Got to earn your freedom.
If it just feels like a action JRPG that has kind of co-op in it, it's like, all right.
And like, I think it was a 7-player online. This is back on the Vita. It was kind of impressive to see this happening on this little screen at the time.
4, I think. I've used, right before the multiplayer shut down, every year I would do PS Vita online. So I'd always check in on that game to see if there were players. Pretty sure it was 4. Okay. And right up to the end, there were players. I remember they had us like go against different regions too. I remember that. So they had like the US region, and then like different parts of the world would go against them and stuff. And it was always such an interesting idea to do that. But the gameplay itself, I am curious to see how it will translate over to a big screen controller in hand. It worked really well. If you see the screenshot comparison, the Vita version next to it is so crunchy looking. Well, it's better on an actual Vita, but
sounds like it could be retooled as a solid games as a service game going forward. We'll see how they do it.
I mean, they say 4K 60 the whole thing. Okay, we'll see. I'll pick it up right away and check this thing out, but I gotta get a physical copy of that.
Yes, and since Bandai Namco is involved, we should get one.
Okay, good.
Hope. You would hope.
Be picking that up right away. So I think that's a game that hopefully gets people interested, because they were even talking sequel maybe for this thing.
As long as it does well, I just want that to be like a, firing off cylinders at Sony of like, oh, maybe we should start licensing out more.
That's kind of the idea, right? It's just, okay, maybe this can domino effect into like some other obscure random titles coming back. So
yeah, I mean, you weren't going to get Sony to do anything with Freedom Wars themselves. So
no, well, at least somebody stepped in and tried to do something. So that's good. It's good to see. Sean, you over there? You figured it out?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, cool. Very good. You missed the whole Concord thing, which is a shame, because you actually had you were dunking on Herman Hulst like a week ago, and turns out you're probably right about it.
Yeah, nobody likes to say that I'm right about anything, so it's fine.
You missed a whole segment where you would have been right.
Man, it's fine.
Looks like he's eating something.
Yeah. Eating some string cheese.
Sounds like he's watching a guy nut in the background too. What the fuck
time
is
to
that?
come back.
I thought that you couldn't hear the background.
No, you're fine.
They're announcing the strap match contestants here.
Okay. Well, we do have Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. They are suing Palworld, which they said in January that they were going to look into it, and now they are finally doing it, which took them, 8 months. Yeah, it took them 8 months to do it. And apparently they are not necessarily going after them for copyright infringement around the character models. They're going after them for patent infringement. Now, we don't know necessarily what the patents are that they're referring to, but this is not likenesses, say for, I don't know, Pikachu versus whatever Pal would copied off of it or something. So that stuck out to me immediately, because it seems like this is a gameplay mechanic thing. And Pocket Pair responded, kind of hyping it up as this is indie games versus Nintendo. Which is, that's one way to do it, to try to get people on your side. But people have been clashing about this over the past couple of days, because there are already a lot of people who aren't fond of Palworld and Pocket Pair, because, I mean, come on, you look at some of those pals and you're like, come on. This doesn't be, you put them side by side, it looks so similar. But Nintendo, I guess, couldn't prove that, but they can prove something else. So what is it?
It's probably throw ball at thing.
It might be that, actually. They
could have just done this with Yu-Gi-Oh characters. No one would have cared.
Digimon just skates on by. Look at that.
I mean, Nintendo can be very litigious. So that's the surprising thing, right? Is that it took this long. You almost think it was just because it was like really like building like not a case, but like what's the best path to ensure that we're going to win?
Yeah, because you know what happened with remember the whole thing with Yuzu? the case happened there where they took that down. Dude, we found out all the stuff Nintendo went through to make that happen. They were in like the Yuzu Discord,
Discord,
like, secretly, like just
The
monitoring
ninjas.
stuff,
collecting
keeping an eye on
messages.
things. So I can only imagine what they did to Pocket Pair and Palworld. Like it was probably some craziness. We don't know yet, but patent infringement would probably be gameplay mechanics, and people are already like unsure about that. The idea of you being able to patent certain things and then sue companies over it. Like there was one that was brought up on Reddit that seemed very strange. It was like Capcom versus Koei Tecmo, and it was over your controller rumbling when you got near a certain thing.
Yeah.
It's actually a well documented problem.
There's been a ton of these.
Yeah, like the mini games during a loading screen.
Yeah, that was a big one.
That was a big one. That's why no other games do it. You know, because that
feels like a problem.
Yeah, to patent a gameplay mechanic and completely cut off any other studio from refining it or improving it or even so much as humoring the idea of using the same thing. It's I don't really like what that, but we're living with it. There are examples where that's why certain games don't have certain elements.
Yeah, again, we don't know the patent that Nintendo's referring to, so there's still information we're missing. One example that's been brought up and people think it might be that is Nintendo worked to finish up their filing for a patent over it started in 2021, and then to get it finished up, I think in the US, it was legitimately earlier this year, I think, or last year. And it was for catching monsters in the field with a ball. Just live, just doing it without going into like a battle, like turn-based, which I think it was a patent for Arceus. So, and it takes a while to get these things to go through. So like literally years, but like, apparently they got it done. And that's what people think they may be going after them for. But that feels kind of vague. It's like you throw a ball at a monster in a field and that's ours now. Like you can't use anything remotely similar to it. So I guess if they made it square,
switch it to a cube.
I don't know. I'm not sure. It does make me think that Nintendo is just like, that game's too successful. We got to do something about this.
Well, they can't just outspend them. I mean, if they really want to be total dickheads about it, I mean, they could put them through the ringer, right?
Litigate into oblivion.
Drag them on. Yeah. I mean, they got the Game Pass deal earlier this year. They were doing some crazy numbers, and PS5 version was on deck.
That's showing up at TGS, isn't it?
They removed it. It's not on the list anymore.
Oh, really?
Apparently, yeah. So, I don't know if it's because of this, because it seems like that'd be a real knee-jerk reaction for that when they think they have a case. But yeah, that's the thing. It seemed like they were going to do an anime. They had merchandise set up. They were partnering with Sony for all of that.
Probably a trading card game down the road or something.
So they were about to, there's a trading card game. They were set to roll, but Nintendo putting up the roadblock here, man. I don't know.
Probably was another Yuzu thing. Like that's why they didn't jump on this right away. A lot of like having the ninjas.
No, it'll be great. It'll come out that someone working at Game Freak was like put into a position to be hired at Pocket Pair and then work their way up the corporate ladder just to get some information.
Yeah, you're gonna see weird shit come out of those documents probably of like what they found.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, we will definitely. That's the interesting thing is there will be discovery. I'm sure we'll learn some stuff here, and man, you know what the big question it's been going around for a while is kind of the development around Palworld. It's been really cagey. Pocket Pair has around the exact details for it, so they might uncover some things in there. People have thrown accusations of like AI and art manipulation and stuff at them, and they've denied. So that's true. If you see a quick settle, maybe Nintendo did find something that they don't want out there. So that's gonna be fun to keep an eye on. Go over to some of the super chats here. Tijo says, imagine if the PS6 is just a console with a VR headset hardwired right into it. Ooh, don't do that.
Well,
we are $1,500.
We're 4 consoles away from PS9, where it's supposed to be a little sphere that you crack open and then it just gives you pure ecstasy. So
just beams light into your eyes, and at first it's cool, and then you start to smell the bacon, and you're like, no.
Yeah, leave that VR headset off that PlayStation. Let's not do that to it. Illustrious says, what's with the paperclip in the PS5 Pro bundle random?
I saw that and I'm like, Is this supposed to soften the blow for like the $1,100 you're about to ask for people, or
You think it's 1,100?
I don't know. It's gonna be more than $1,000.
I think
It probably.
1,200. I think
Yeah.
1,200 is like if you're
12.
lucky.
Whatever it is, a paperclip ain't softening the blow.
Paperclip.
I'm like, a paperclip? What the fuck, you guys?
You don't know where that paperclip's been. Could be worth it.
Oh man.
John Sanders says, shout out to RGT, new book. Great job, dude.
Thank you.
This says, I Live for Retro said, could someone from the cast play Incredible Crisis? That sounds like a Ryan game.
Yep. I was very surprised by that Astrobot cameo.
See? Now you got to go play that.
It's your
I gotta
homework.
buy it. It's not my collection.
I know what that game is.
Oh,
That's a weird. It's a weird game. I've seen some videos on it before. I would just emulate it. It's a PS1 game, so.
Is it an expensive game?
Yeah.
I think it's like $40-$50.
Oh.
And
Okay.
it's not super long.
William says, is there a way to play Typing of the Dead local multiplayer on anything other than a Dreamcast or Dreamcast emulation with dual keyboard support?
Well, Typing of the Dead got a Windows port.
yeah, there should be something on Windows. I remember that.
Yeah. Let's
I'm gonna
see.
look it up.
Okay.
What's
Let's
the best
see.
way? The only way to play the game in English for multiplayer on the same screen is the Dreamcast version. Well, there you go.
Professor Dr. Do says, any of you like Goemon games, check out Bakaru.
Yeah, I need to check out Bakaru. I liked the demo a lot. I thought it was super fun.
Is that out physically right now too?
I don't know. I feel like my answer is no, but I could be wrong.
Casual Noob Gamer says, John, without a live show, how will I get a gifted membership? Thanks, Fransby. Also, Doug Bowser is hinting at Mario Kart next year on his Twitter. Is he now?
Did we talk about... Never mind.
What did we talk about, Sean? What is it?
No, just the Doug Bowser talk got me thinking of someone who's going to be at the Game Awards.
Who's that?
The guy who didn't want to bring Xenoblade West, and it required a whole grassroots movement in order to do it, but everyone thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
What's he doing there? What's he doing at the Game Awards?
Talking about the state of the industry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yet another reason I won't be watching the Game Awards.
You're not going to watch
He
that?
says preparing to watch the Game Awards.
No, I'm not. Like, I'll watch a recap of the trailers that were there. I am swearing off Keeley events. I'm done. If people want to watch them, that's fine. But you know,
TJ says just started Astrobot and immediately made me wish Sony would restock the controller. I think it looks better than the PS1 DualSense. Whoa, but I'm still gonna go for that when pre-orders open. Okay, is everybody shooting for that DualSense right now?
I'm not.
Anything you're going to get out of there, it's probably that.
Okay, so Sean's not, but I feel like I've seen a lot of people online go, well, I'm getting the DualSense. I'm not going to get the system, obviously, but I'll get the DualSense. That's going to be the hot ticket item. Albin says people arguing over the 40 mil when the real problem is Herman Concord is the future Hulst is the one laying out the roadmap for PS Studios.
Yeah.
Well,
it wasn't. I still don't know about that figure.
400 million.
Yeah, I don't. That seems a little too high.
I mean,
it's shockingly high.
In theory, we keep talking about the upcoming video game crash, so maybe he is predicting the future.
I mean, because Spider-Man 2 was 300 million, right? And
just north of it, yeah. Yep.
I mean, and that has a Disney license attached to it, not a bunch of crap-ass characters that nobody gives a fuck about. That they try to develop a story. Like, if that game cost you how about this? If that game cost $400 million to make, the industry needs to fucking crash. There needs to be a great reset that happens within this, because that's atrocious. And you obviously don't know, like it's absolutely ridiculous.
It does seem also weird to sell the game for $40 if it costs that much to make. Unless they just got stuck and they're like, well, we have to sell this thing for $40. We already made that precedent with Helldivers too. I don't know. It just seems, even that part seems a little weird.
Like it's when I talk about a crash, people think, oh, it's like, you're an idiot. It's not going to be like 1983 where you can't buy video games and nobody's making it. There's levels to crashes. That's just what everyone sort of equates it to. It's just going to be, there's less players, there's less games, there's less studios, there's less AAA stuff.
Well, yeah, it's the quadruple A crash, basically, is what it would end up being.
And you're already starting to see it. Imagine a year ago if somebody told you that a first party Sony game was gonna cost $400 million to make and it would be out for 2 weeks before they pull it and completely kill it. Would you have believed them?
No, I wouldn't have.
I just argue it's already sort of happened in that the amount of layoffs that's happened so far.
Yep,
2023 was like 10,000. It's been another like what 12 or 13,000 this year. There is a bit of a reset that's already happening.
But I'm the crazy one. Okay.
This is we have Dank saying screw lying Jim Ryan and fire Herman Hulst. And people coming for Herman Hulst now.
Now y'all missing Sean Layden now, aren't you?
I see it brought up a lot. People do seem to be calling for Sean Layden to come back.
They dragged him kicking and screaming out of that place, pal. He ain't never coming back. It was like Diddy getting escorted by the agent.
Oh man, don't do
that video. He's like, God damn it, you got me. I knew this was coming.
Christian says, was the PS4 era the best Sony could give?
I think you find a lot of people say PS2 or 3 maybe before 4.
I would, yeah. I mean, PS4 was good, but if you were of a decent age to enjoy the PS2 era, like you're not fucking touching that.
PS2 was good. Shinru says, who's winning, Halo Spartans or Ultramarines?
Well, John, you've played a bit of it now. Are you feeling out what could happen in that situation? And again, is it one-on-one? Like,
that's a good question. And which Spartan is it? Is it Master Chief?
And in which friggin' Ultramarine is it? Their actual Primarch who's immortal? Like what?
Well, okay. Well, yeah, that'd be a problem.
What if it's the TV show Master Chief?
Oh well, if it's TV
will
show,
he be pantsless?
Yeah, that's not gonna work out.
What is happening? Why is it every fucking day new Netflix anime about some video game series? It's like, what are we doing here? I don't like it.
Trying to reach out to the mainstream.
I don't like it. I am not a fan.
You don't like more people coming into your hobby.
No, it's just like not everything needs a fucking TV show. Like it's just weird. It's weird to me.
Sean, I feel like they're cutting checks for anybody. Why don't you go make a pitch?
I should.
Yeah, you should, Sean.
Call the show "Fuck John."
You walk in there with your shorts and your wrestling T-shirt and your vape. I think you might walk out of there with a deal.
You shouldn't do that, Sean, because if that wins like an Oscar or something, I have to go up on stage and accept it, and you gotta sit there and watch.
No, you don't, because I'm casting someone as you. It's not going to be you in the show, pal.
This is from Michael, who says, was hoping Sony released 30th plates for the PS5.
They did.
That's the dirty part.
It's called the PS5 Pro. Just buy it. I'm sure some company will come along and be like, here, we made one. It's $50. Put your own stickers on there.
Yeah, that's kind of a shame. I mean, they could still announce it, but I think they're keeping that to the console, which is a shame. And Talabit says, do you think Switch 2 can do 120 FPS docked game COD? Well, I think it's possible, but we don't necessarily know yet. I think they'll have enough bandwidth on the HDMI side, but
at 480p, 120.
Yeah. It's hard to say. I mean, it's it's going to depend obviously on the CPU and stuff that they have packed into. So,
let alone even
We'll
if they
see.
want to go for it. I mean, if they just go for 60,
yeah,
people will
they
be
might not
happy.
care that much, to be honest. Yeah, that might be right there. Rage Patty says, maple syrup dollars. Thanks for always making my Saturday night chill. Don't mind smaller cast because Kimmerix shines in more, which is dope. Cheers, guys. Shout out to Rage Patty. Kenji says, I'm thinking Chinese leakers had 3 models for the Switch Pro that was scrapped, and now they're making it see like it's Switch 2. Oh, it seemed like it's Switch 2. Well, the Switch Pro got scrapped a while ago, but I don't even know if they had those because dev kits were barely out there. So Frank says, I wanted to say thanks to all the Spawncast for making TMG the best. Also, Ryan, I facepalmed when I realized you had that Frogger game. I saw your collection video.
I want to make it clear, though. I thought it was very kind of you that you remembered that. So I still have it. It's sitting right up there. It's front facing, and that's your copy that's front facing. So thank you.
Let's see. Rasta Life Ray says, I can't wait to play COD on the Switch. Have a good weekend.
Same.
Tijo says, how are you doing on that there Concord Platinum, Ryan? How's that going over there?
I said long ago that game wasn't for me, so I did not have a chance at all. However, I have talked to somebody that was a platinum achiever, so I might have a story on that very soon and talk about what those people went through to get a platinum in 72 hours, which was kind of nuts.
You can ask them why they did it.
I did. Indeed, I did.
Someone on my timeline got it.
There's 69 platinum achievers. Nice.
Someone.
Did they do that on purpose?
69. Yeah, they all coordinated to make sure the 70th guy couldn't get it.
Michael says, RGT, how about that Tokyo Extreme Racer announcement? Saw that too.
Yeah, I need them to be like, hey, this is all this is also coming on consoles as well.
Well, your racing car kit won't work for your PC?
It will, but
that's right. They just have it on Steam.
Oh, it was Kofi. I didn't want to make the same mistake I made last time. I thought it was Kofi, but OJ's not here.
Everyone looks the same mistake.
I did not say that. OJ said that. So OJ's the racist. I'm the progressive Hulkamaniac over here. But yeah, Kofi is one of the 69 people who got it.
A conundrum.
Let's see. This is from Scout. He says, could you make news about Stop Killing Games? I covered that originally. I think there was an update about that too. So maybe I'll look back into that again. Shadow Nexus says, Qualcomm approached Intel about acquisition. I would be shocked if Intel went with that. I think Intel believes they can dig themselves out of the hole they're in right now. If Qualcomm did acquire them and they were allowed to, that would be pretty massive, just in general for technology and PCs. Oh, here it is. Hellman says, Bakro, no physical in English, Sean, for Bakru.
Yeah, and I hear it's because it's also on Steam, and the Steam version supposedly nice and smooth. I don't know why
they say
smooth.
9 out of 10 game, but FPS drops on the Switch, unfortunately. Let's see. Professor says Mario Kart 8 Ultimate versus Capcom Rememories. What game is that? Al Kaiser says, shout out from Mexico. I watched Spawn Wave at 6 a.m. Central Time due to home office. I just wish DJ Hero would make a return. Wow, I haven't heard DJ Hero in a long time.
The peripheral cost to bring that back.
It's a long time. It feels like another lifetime ago when that was big.
Remember they had DJ Hero Station set up at Too Many Games?
Oh, yeah.
Yep. People were getting after it, too. Man. Let's see.
Say it out loud.
Say it.
You put it on screen. Say it.
TV show Master Chief seduces Ultramarine by hanging Major Dong. Spartan wins.
This guy's out here writing just all the lore for himself. He's got all the fan fiction.
John Leono says, are you guys aware of the Switch 2 camera attachment? I think that was discussed at one point. I got some questions around the idea of them attaching a camera to the top when they could just build it in manufacturing. It could just be a camera that's in the system like tablets and smartphones have. It just would seem weird. Unless they're like, oh, privacy concerns. We don't because the general audience, kids and stuff, don't want a camera to be in there by default. But still, you could technically build it in and have a little slider on it. So there are things you could do. TARDIS says, do you guys think Street Pass and or Miiverse will return? And background menu music or even game theme songs, like how on the 3DS you would have a short game theme play for the selected game?
I mean, let's keep it simple. Let's hope you can organize your games on your main screen. Like, Jesus Christ.
A folder.
Requests again? A folder.
Can we get good Wi-Fi connection, please, this time around?
Can you get voice chat natively instead of using your cell phone?
Instead of telling everyone you can't, and then half the third-party games on your system can. Like, it's.
I mean, let's be real. The Switch right now, in terms of like features for a system level, it has started at like bare minimum right now, and we're just like you're asking for like background music, and it's like, man, that's really where we are.
Which is weird because like the Wii and the Wii U was more advanced in some of those areas. Huh.
And the Wii background music was it. Man,
it was the jam.
Corey says maple syrup dollars. Never heard that one. RGT Aftershock.
No, not tonight. I gotta work on tomorrow's video and a few things. I might stream tomorrow though.
Good video setup for tomorrow.
No, I gotta work on it, pal.
I said, yeah, good one in mind. Good one set up.
Yeah, I'll probably just bitch about Concord.
Classic.
Tijo says, in all seriousness, though, thanks for PS6, I think Sony needs to do something different than just increase graphics. Otherwise, it'd just be the PS5 Pro. Ryan's actually been pushing for that. He's got some other ideas in mind. So
the double Pro squared.
Not pushing for it. I think what you're suggesting is what they've already acknowledged. Like PS5, for example, the company's exploring sensory experiences. Instead of because it's graphics are it's diminishing returns. That's why they invested a lot in 3D audio. The controller has haptics and triggers, and so they already know that's kind of where we're at. They'll probably explore more sensory things.
I think we'll get the impact vest for FPS games. Just shocks you every time you get hit.
Maybe some smell patents. They'll start injecting odor into your.
I like the one about temperature changes, like for the controller.
Yeah, interesting. Like that.
They have a smell thing. Wood made a video on it.
Smell-o-vision.
I feel like the temperature change thing, people would do it like once and be like, that's kind of cool. And then they would all set it to a nice cool temperature at a consistent rate so that they don't have to like let go anymore. They just keep going.
Arc Strike says, did you see the trailer for The Defiant, a World War II era shooter from the Japanese side of the theater? Thoughts? I did not see that.
The Defiant supergroup.
Defiant.
It's a World War II
era shooter. Interesting. We will look into that. Thank you, Arcstrike. Let's see. Well, I'll bring this up while Sean's here and somewhat calm. Got more remasters, Sean. Horizon Zero Dawn remaster that got rated by the SRB, and then Days Gone also rumored for a remaster.
It's going around for round 2.
You feeling excited for that, Sean? I'm sure you are. You really like Horizon. That's like one of your favorite series.
I feel it's very pointless, and I actually had this conversation on a show I did Thursday night, which was primarily all PlayStation fans, and some of the justifications, like I just muted my mic because I didn't know these people, so I didn't want to be like mean or something, but some of the things, it was just like, that's crazy.
Dude, they brought you there. They invoked you. Don't do that. Just actually go.
Interesting. Okay, so they were excited for it, or they're interested in it.
I wouldn't say necessarily excited, but there was justification for it. Like, oh, I never played it when it originally came out, so I could get this version. It's the best version. And it's like, but you can buy the fucking game right now and not wait for it for $10 anywhere. It's $10 everywhere. And then talking about Horizon, and play an enhanced version for the PlayStation 5. Like, I guess the whole sort of thing is, it's allegedly using Forbidden West assets and stuff like that. So okay. Like if there's some sort of additional content or something, whatever, then it's a different subject. But to me, it comes down to the price. And if people say, oh, well, it'll have upgrade path. I don't think it will. I think the upgrade path is done. They're not doing it with Until Dawn. That would have been a perfect game for the upgrade path. If they're making a substantial change to the game, like adding in those Forbidden West textures, they're not going to want to say, oh yeah, $10 when you could go buy the fucking game for $10. They're not going to do that. That makes no sense. Same thing with Days Gone. I thought Sony hated Days Gone. They thought it failed. They didn't like it. They got rid of they canceled the sequel to it.
Zombies are back, man, and there's no other games on the market.
Like it's weird to me because these are games that, like, you know, they're games that I don't think need a remaster or a remake or something like that. There are so many Sony games that people would prefer get this treatment. Like people saying like Infamous in the chat and stuff like that.
I would like to see Infamous come back. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, and that rumor of the next Infamous. What the hell?
But it's just, I don't know. It's very strange. And I get it. You know, it's supposed to be a stopgap sort of thing. But are people going to go out in droves and buy these things? What about PC players? Because you assume those games are going to come to PC as well.
Well, it got rated for PC. Yeah, I'm not really sure how that works.
How does that work? You know, and if you look at, you know, the kind of, I wouldn't say decline, but the less interest in some of the more recent Sony games, Concord, of course, and like Ragnarok's not doing super well compared to what the original God of War did on PC. It's kind of like, are you banking a little too much on this market? I don't know. It's just it as an isolated thing, that's one thing. When you take it cumulatively with all the other strange things happening with Sony and the PlayStation brand right now, you know, it kind of paints a very strange image. Why, like, remasters in the middle of a generation are weird because usually you see them either at the start or the end. The start being because they had games that they wanted to, you know, that games that weren't successful on the previous platform that they want to introduce to this new audience, and at the end as like filler. But the middle of a generation, that's when you're supposed to be firing on all cylinders. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Okay. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I always go back to it. It's an optics thing. It just doesn't look very good when the company's been very silent lately. So everyone's looking for, you know, that state of play or a showcase, and we want to know what all these studios are up to for like new games. So I'm very sympathetic with those that are like looking at these two things and going, my God, more remasters. Are you joking? To Sean's point, yeah, you do this at the beginning of the generation. I think it goes over a lot smoother. You know, we saw that with like Tsushima and Death Stranding, and there's always like that cross-gen period where it's like, here's, you know, the game spruced up on the new hardware and you can enjoy it that way. So we obviously don't need them. I think that much is clear. I will say, I think they will be the $10 upgrade path, if only because Until Dawn's a remake, whereas these are, we assume they should be labeled as remasters. The more recent remaster that we had that was eligible for a $10 path was Last of Us Part 2 Remastered. So as long as it does very much fit within the mold of a remaster and not a remake, I would suspect it is $10. Although for Horizon, they gave that away during the Play at Home initiative during COVID. And this is a very Sony move. They're not going to let those people, those people buy the game for $10. It's just like, yeah, they want to do it on PC to charge another $70 because, like, I think it's $50 right now on PC if they do spruce the game up a decent amount. So it's probably a way to charge more
crazy.
for it. Yeah, it's probably a way to charge more for it on PC. Days Gone. So the thing with Days Gone is that internally at Bend, that's why we never got Days Gone 2. Sony didn't reject Days Gone 2, and they never had the chance to reject it. Bend executives, you know, kind of voted on it, and internally that was the outcome, is that they were not going to pursue another Days Gone. So that's kind of what happened there, because the game actually did sell reasonably well. Like, it was 9 million something plus copies. It definitely made money. That's why they're doing a movie for PlayStation Productions, which I would suspect that's also why they're trying to tie it in with productions, because it's just what they've been wanting to do as of late, is try and get these things lined up with different TV shows and film, because it does have this like knock-on effect with like transmedia. So it's probably another reason why they're doing it. It's just bad optics, man. It's just, this is not the time I think you want to be doing these. They're just taking a lot of heat. Like I was mentioning this on my show. It's like at a certain point, you guys have got to like control your own narrative. You guys can't be the laughing stock of Twitter every single time you do something, you know, even if these are maybe seemingly minor innocuous things. Like these remasters aren't as resource intensive as people think they are. Typically it's something new staff at these studios end up working on. Like it's an onboarding thing. So you have a handful of people that do this while, you know, the next project sort of starts to scale up, right? Because you don't move 300 people into a project right away. It just doesn't make sense. You'd have 250 something people not doing anything. That's usually why you have them either handle outsourcing or they'll do something for, say, another PS studio, or in this case, a remaster. Not to try and, you know, defend the decision. I just think it's bad optics, obviously. So this is not the time to be doing this. It's like, if you're going to do this, you better start announcing something like fairly soon, which we would hope 2025 is when it pops up.
So what if it is going to be kind of weird if next week the State of Play happens and there's a Horizon Zero Dawn remaster there, and that's like their one first party announcement?
Yeah, it'll look bad. It'll look bad, real bad. Like they've got to start doing something. You just can't keep letting yourself be the laughing stock.
You're right when it comes to optics, because I think about that and I go, what if they had announced even earlier this year what Naughty Dog's working on, what Sucker Punch is working on, what Blue Point's working on? Some of those are 2 years out, some of them are next year. But people probably wouldn't have cared as much if they did a rematch. They'd be like, okay, whatever. Look at what Naughty Dog's doing. Who cares? Fine. That's like your first party announcement. That's kind of rough. That is at that point. So it's interesting. I didn't even think about it, but Horizon Zero Dawn is now 7.5 years old. Is that, I think, it's about 7.5 years old now. It's wild to think it's been that long since that game came out.
I mean, the problem with Horizon is that, you know, I love the franchise a lot. I'll always admit this. I like Horizon a lot, but it's like when you do this much of it, I mean, it's at a certain point, you're just going to start really annoying people.
Wait a minute.
At a certain point, like I like it. Maybe we should stop with this franchise.
Let's connect the dots here. Okay. We just saw what happened with Concord. There's a lot of, they said toxic positivity, right? And that was Herman Hulst. Which franchise I think Herman Hulst really wants to push?
Well, the difference is Horizon makes money. So that's,
and people are interested in it. But I still go back to what you said. There's going to be a $10 upgrade path. So then why would anyone buy this when you could buy a used copy of the game for literally $10 on eBay, GameStop, Amazon, wherever? Like, I don't know. That's what's kind of holding me back on it, because the game that works with part 2. Yeah, it works with part 2. But part 2 wasn't that old.
No, but I'm saying like you could buy the game for $10 and then get your $10 fee, and then you're gonna come out ahead of, like, let's say buying part 2 remastered for what is it, like 50 or something, 50, 60 right now. I mean, you could do that. You'll come out cheaper if you just buy it, you know, used. I don't know why they do. I mean, I think that's like the bare minimum is what, if you're going to be doing all these remasters and if the optics are bad, like at the very minimum, like offer the $10 upgrade path. It used to be free and then they stopped doing it.
Right.
So
yeah,
I don't agree with it, but that's just the way it is.
I think you're onto something though with Ryan, with the idea of Horizon just being driven into the ground with releases to where you just go, Horizon again.
What are you talking about? It's not like there's a new one coming out this year. Stars her.
Lego Horizon Remaster. We should have a multiplayer game for it. And we know that there needs to be a third one to finish up this trilogy of games that, let's be real, will probably have an open-ended ending of some kind where you see the next character or that like just happens to come into frame at the end, or I don't know. They're going to keep the franchise going as long as they can.
Maybe maybe a sequel to the VR game too.
I don't think that's happening.
Yeah, I think they're done with that. They're done with that experiment.
Yeah, I think that's done.
God,
and the other thing with that is it is kind of
that VR headset was.
It is interesting to tie Gorilla to this probably for so long. I mean, this is they'll probably still be on it even after the trilogy's done, I assume.
Bro, can you make a kill zone?
Please? I think they'll move on after the third entry. I think
hope
they
so.
will. Yeah.
I think that's enough for. I'd be okay with that. I'm like, you know what? That was good. Set 3 games, then obviously whatever spinoffs and stuff other studios do. I think I'm good then. They can get away from that for a while and maybe come back later if they feel like they should after some time.
Hold on. Cosmic Reflection says, and I'll read it as it's typed because it's all caps. Bro, nobody beat Horizon. No one gives a shit. Move on. Next topic. There it is.
You know what's funny about Cosmic Reflection says that? Whenever I talk to you about Horizon, very few are like, oh, I like that game. I like that series. And it's weird because it sells well, doesn't it? But the only person I talk to is like Ryan, who likes it. Like, I like the past 2 games.
Like Aloy is just annoying. She's not an interesting character to me at all.
Man, the Aloy burial. So you're saying if it was a different character, you'd be more interested in it?
Not even that. Just make her more interesting. Like, she's just very blah.
Well, Sean, you'd have a tough upbringing too if you were raised like that. It's the whole point of the story. She was raised in this very weird world.
I mean, Mowgli was raised by fucking animals in the Jungle Book, and he's entertaining.
You know, it's a shame. There are some legitimately like impressive moments in Forbidden West that people will just never experience, that they cannot get over. They're just like how they just do not care about Aloy. There are some crazy things that happen in Forbidden West people just never see.
Yeah, it's a shame. I do like the franchise a lot, but I get that people are kind of over it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe they'll do something really different with the third one to change it up. Yeah. We'll see. Probably at the end of this generation, I assume. And maybe Guerrilla can move on to something new for the PS6. Maybe that's the plan. Anyway.
That's disgusting.
Well, hold on. They still have to remaster Forbidden West. So maybe that's a PS6 release for them. Just remaster it. Let's while we're on the topic of state of play, by the time we record Click R3, we should have one. It should be done and out there. It's rumored to happen on Tuesday, the 24th.
So and it supposedly sucks. Everyone just keep your expectations.
Everyone's already burying this thing.
The journalists, the journalists are burying it. That's how you know shit is gonna be fucking.
Top of the show, Keeley walks out and Sean immediately turns it off.
I'm out. Isn't he doing something at Tokyo Game Show too?
He might be. I just assume he's everywhere.
That man is a parasite. Anything.
He follows you on Twitter. What are you doing?
I mean, he follows me because I keep it real, and I would say that to him. I'm like, oh, you're kind of a parasite with these events. Like you just.
Yo, man, you're kind of a piece of shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah, if that is the case, okay, so we assume next Tuesday, maybe like a 30 to 40 minute presentation, typical Tokyo Game Show thing. And I mean, are we going into this with any expectations for first party right now? Because outside of Horizon remaster, I would hope there's something there, because that would be tough if that's all they announce from their first party.
Little Big Planet 3 HD.
Well, then what else do they have coming up, really, from first party?
That's the question we've been asking this entire year, John. It was,
but like now Astrobot's out of the way. You can always be like, Astrobot's coming. It's like, oh, cool, Astrobot's good. It's out of the way. What's in front of them? Fair games. Okay, see, we got something here.
On a cracker.
Fair, big. I'm already picturing it right now. They go through a bunch of third party stuff. Horizon remaster immediately goes into Fair Games, 15-minute presentation to close out the show.
Jesus Christ.
Brightly colored boomer game go.
You think that money launderer is actually going to have something to show? Come on.
Okay, so
she is. Salute to Jade Raymond, bro. You haven't done jack shit in a fucking decade, yet you're still collecting checks. You collected a beautiful check from Stadia, I'm sure. Now you're getting that Sony check. Salute. I envy Jade Raymond.
She's living your get the bag dream, man.
I know. I'm saying I envy that. Like, fucking get the fucking bag, but like, I don't know.
Okay, so next Tuesday, State of Play. What's the studio from Sony you want to see an announcement from?
Any of them.
Short term, you think Tsushima's going to be announced soon?
Sucker Punch.
Yeah, it's probably the most likely, I would say. It's just it would be pretty bad if like nothing is said at all. So we'll see.
That would be rough.
Yeah,
that would be rough.
It'd be rough. It'd be real. I mean, they got to confirm that date for like Lego, so that's going to show up.
That would be there.
Yeah, the SRB just rated remaster, so that's got to show up
if
somewhere.
From Lego Horizon to Horizon Remaster.
Yeah, the Days Gone thing. We don't know like where that actually, like how far along that even is. That could actually be like a next year thing. So that might not be a short term thing. I mean, new announcements. Blue Point's kind of in that area where they could say something. Naughty Dog might want to just put a teaser out there. Maybe another update for Wolverine, since that's coming up now finally. Based on the Insomniac breach, we know there's possibly more Spider-Man 2 content coming, or an additional game, or however they're wanting to repackage. Yeah, however they want to repackage that, since that's still not entirely clear what they're planning on doing. Like they have things that seemingly they can say. It's just they just never say these things far out anymore. But that's the issue, is that if you're going to say something, that should also mean that it's going to come out within, let's say, within 12 months. You can't say something and then it doesn't launch until 2027, right?
I feel like too. I feel like they could, like, if they were like, maybe we should just put something. I feel like they could do it. I mean, like, here's Naughty Dog thing. It's gonna be a minute.
Maybe that alongside a short-term game, like
exactly.
And this, I mean, there is Death Stranding 2. That's like the last thing we know of.
Yes, Death Stranding 2. They're gonna have a whole panel there, which they probably will. Maybe they will cut out some time in the State of Play for it then, just because it's gonna have a big presence at Tokyo Game Show. Hey, going into the week, don't forget about this. We're gonna show you like 2 minutes of it or something here.
Oh no, this is Kojima, so it's gonna be like 8 minutes minimum.
Oh, sorry, yes, 8 minutes. We won't know anything that just happened on the way out. So
it'll be 8 minutes, and you still don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened. I don't know where you are. Nothing. This is okay. Great, thanks.
Just sitting in front of a camera talking, and then a version of him walks in behind, and that's the end of the trailer.
It does sound funny, right? I do think it actually would surprise me if Insomniac had something there, and it's so funny to say that because they're constantly doing stuff. But there is that piece of from the leak for Spider-Man 2, like that in between the Miles Morales level game, basically is. I mean, I'm sure people saw the leak, but that should be ready for next year. So they could do it here. Last Tokyo Game Show, they showed Spider-Man 2. That was one of the big games.
I mean, the thing is,
yeah, sure. There you go, Venom. Thanks, Sean.
by Monday, they do out for State of Plays. At least they say on the PS blog, like, here's what's in it: third parties, PSVR 2 stuff. Oh, there's no PS Studios, or there is PS. So we'll know by Monday, you would hope. And then Monday is where we can all start lighting up torches if they say that there's no updates from PS Studios.
Third-party games. Any off the top of your head where you're like, all right, this might be it. This might be a big announcement for him there.
They said in chat, abandoned.
Crazy if that shows up.
You know what? That should have been a warning sign that Sony didn't know what the fuck was going on this generation when their fucking social media team was hyping that shit up. That should have been a warning sign.
That was a weird month, wasn't it? That was a strange time in gaming.
I've heard maybe. I mean, you know it's gonna be there. You already know one of the games. It's one you've seen 100 times, and you'll see it again at Tokyo Game Show, and you'll see it again at the Game Awards.
Monster Hunter Wilds.
There you go. Of course it's gonna be there. It's been at every fucking event, and I do not expect it to end its streak.
You don't want to see it again?
I'm good. It's Monster Hunter. It's a pretty new Monster Hunter game. Okay, we're good.
How about Resident Evil 9?
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I've heard that.
That's a good one.
The direction.
I can see that there.
Are we sticking with first person? Whose story is it?
That first person question is going to be the big one.
Can you go back? And what what happened to my middle ground Resident Evil games? Those were fun. The little fill in the gap one.
You mean like Revelations and stuff?
Yeah, your Revelations, and some were better than others, but Outbreak. What about a modern Outbreak? Now you got the infrastructure for something like that. Like imagine like you and like 3 other people playing a Resident Evil game together.
They were kind of going back and forth between like the mainline, the remake, mainline, remake, and they're kind of running out of remakes. So maybe they'll go back to that.
No, they're not. You still got the big one. Number 1.
Which one?
The first game, the first Resident Evil.
Oh, the first one. Well, I mean, they're doing what Code Veronica, and that's apparently not like on the level of some of the other remakes we've seen. So we'll see. See what that looks like. What about I was thinking Square Enix, maybe they finally show that Final Fantasy IX remake.
Oh boy.
Well, are we hearing that's like more of a soft remaster, kind of like what they do with 8?
Yeah, I think I feel like it was a little more than 8. I mean, we see remasters or remakes come out all the time. We're like, is that a remasters or like? I feel like it'd be like that blurred line kind of game.
Crisis Core, kind of like what they did with Crisis Core.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, but apparently it'll stick very, very close to the original game, so it won't be like where they take 7 and who knows where they are now with it. Like it's just veered completely off the rails. It'll be 9, and people who are very happy with the traditional game will be very happy with this one. Then I assume. We'll see. The internet's mad at a lot of stuff, so
Delta release date.
We do need that. You're right. Yep, that 2024. Sean, get ready.
Why are they dragging this out? It's obviously not coming out this year. Just fucking say it.
I don't know why they are dragging. It's so weird that they still have. They could just be like, hey, they could drop a card ahead of it, get ahead of it on Twitter, and just be like, hey, it's 2025, but tune in. TGS will have something else to show you guys.
It just shadow drops at TGS just out of nowhere.
Oh gosh.
Kept you waiting, huh?
That'd be something. I think that does need a release date though. You're right. So I'm still thinking they might even just tell us 2025, but I'm thinking like first half of next year might be the time for that, which they got to get it right. You cannot mess up Metal Gear Solid 3.
It looks great.
It does. Keep showing it. It looks better every time.
I don't see how you mess it up because they're not messing with the story. They're not messing with the voiceover. It's the exact same game with just prettier graphics and like a new engine.
Isn't that all you wanted, Sean?
Yeah, that's all I wanted. I wish you could have given me the online multiplayer so I could hit the button and say protect me. I played that.
Hey,
maybe
they'll save that for the collection, the volume 2. Maybe they'll bring an online component back with it. There you go.
It was so much fun. Like it was so janky, but it was so much fun.
No, I'm hoping that Sony has a good state of play. I am. We'll cover it on Click R3 next week, and it'll be right away just about too, because they usually hold those later on in the afternoon. So
like 5 or 6.
Be hours later. We'll be covering it right away. So that'll be, we'll see some of the immediate reactions to that. Otherwise, though, going into just Tokyo Game Show in general, we already had a new Like a Dragon game that was announced that looks like it's a pirate themed one, which looks ridiculous.
What's up with this franchise here? Because
all of a sudden, because the pirates.
No, I'm asking why is it every year there's a new one?
So this was actually something that was brought up. I feel like Gene brought this up. I think he had an interview or an article written up about this.
Oh, because they reused assets or something like that.
Yeah, and you can see it when you play the games. Like RGG's like, I don't even. I guess whoever Gene was interviewing was like, I don't get why other studios take so long to make their games. Just reuse the stuff, basically.
Guys, just reuse everything. What do you?
But people don't care because the games are they're very interesting games. Sean, you mentioned like the character Aloy, for example. You mentioned you go into some of these Like a Dragon games, and some of these characters are so off the wall crazy.
Samoa Joe is in the new one.
Yeah. See, it was Gene Park. Yep. Yeah. Everyone, check out Gene's article on that, his interview, because it was some very interesting stuff. Just the fact that they were just kind of confused, like just reuse the stuff. I don't know. And when you play these games, you can tell, like, you say, well, yeah, okay, we've seen this before, but you don't really care because they're like, okay, now you're on a pirate ship. And it's, okay, all right. And the game before, you had an entire Pokemon team made up of homeless people you found on the street. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's awesome. Oh, look, Gene says a blood splatter from Yakuza 1 on PS2 is still being used as a texture in 2024.
I mean, it kind, because if you, not to bring it to this point, but like a lot of the new hacks for the N64 wrestling games, as covered in the Art of N64 Wrestling Games book, available on CastlemaniaGames.com, autographed or with a T-shirt for $39.99, or you can pick it up on Amazon or Kindle version. That's what they do. They reuse textures all the time because I mean, if you make one project, right, you're gonna have assets used in there, characters, shirts, move hacks that'll be applicable to another project. So then you can just move it over there. So you only have to start from scratch on, let's say, half the roster. So you can get a quicker turnaround time.
I mean, some companies do it. Madden was notorious for reusing the same assets. So you'd see the older Madden logo in the arenas that you were playing in the newer games. So
yeah, but that's just shit. But did you see the college football game? They said that they made all the stadiums and shit with AI because they're like, we're not making 100 fucking stadiums. We used AI. Nobody said a fucking word because nobody was the wiser.
That's because they're not going to tell you when they do it. They're just going to do it. You'll find out later after you already gave them $70.
Hey, and that game was successful.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the thing. You're going to play a lot of other games in the future that use AI to help build chunks of it, and they're just never going to tell you. That's how it'll work. Here's an example from Mitchell, Sean, that said that mentions RGG's game output. Yes, they've had in the last 4 years, Like a Dragon, Lost Judgment, Ishin Remake, The Man Who Erased His Name, Infinite Wealth, and then early next year they have this pirate spinoff. So that's 6 games. That's
crazy. But if they're selling, who gives a fuck? If people are buying them,
really excited every time they announce it. They enjoy it. The games, by the way, they're lengthy titles. I think Infinite Wealth was like a solid 30-hour game or something. They're pretty good. I mean, that game got rated highly too. It's up there as like one of the top rated games of the year.
Yet they can't give me Shenmue 4.
Do you really want Shenmue 4 after playing 3?
Finish the goddamn story. That's all I want.
It'll come out as a book. There you go. You'll get it.
Did anything actually happen? And did 3 move the needle at all for that story?
No.
So guess what 4 is going to do?
They need to just finish it. Wrap this
4 is
shit
going to
up,
make you travel back in time somehow.
It'd be a fucking child training with her dad before Lon D kills him. Just make a Shenmue fighting game, and in the story mode you play as Ryu, and then the end you fight Lon D, and then I'm done. That's it. Story modes and fighting games are a big deal nowadays. Release it for $20. Everyone is happy.
How many more games did Suzuki say they need to make? Like
11 or some crazy
11.
Shit.
Well, I mean,
Fucking
it's a long story.
He's gonna be dead by then.
What happened in there?
There's nothing. Nothing happened in the third game. It took fucking like 20 years to make a game where nothing happens.
I looked up the story, like the retrospective on it, just to see, because I wasn't gonna play through it. I was like, let me just see what's going on here. And I watched it. And they explained the story, and I went through this whole looping path, and we just end up right back at the beginning. I was like, nothing happened. The guy just walked off.
Yes.
It was very strange. I never get that.
Sometimes I like to pretend, like, just play through Shenmue 1 and then pretend like the boat sank at the end of the game, and like that's it. You never got revenge. It's fine. The boat sank. Everyone is dead. And
that's
then,
the end, huh?
I mean, except these 2 did further things along, but I don't know. 1 is just special.
Well, Tokyo Game Show is coming up. It's next week. So I'm hoping for a lot of announcements. Apparently it's the biggest Tokyo Game Show they've ever had. So we'll see what we have with that one. I know Microsoft's going to have a stream, and it seems like they're going to get Final Fantasy 16, maybe the Pixel remasters, maybe some Game Pass editions. And I don't know if I'm necessarily going into that expecting big brand new announcements. Although Nate did list a couple that caught me off guard a bit in Direct Xbox last night, so people should go check that out. But if they did something like a Blue Dragon remaster, for example, that'd be kind of cool. So if you want to hear more about that, check out our Direct Xbox last night. Let me see. We have. There we go. Necro Banana says Horizon is an industry plant. Spyro Jones says Sony would rather remaster Horizon than bring back one of the many franchises people were excited about in Astrobot, like Ape Escape or Sly Cooper. Let's see. Director. Well, I'd actually be curious about. I don't know if the studio behind Sly Cooper really wants to make it anymore. That's the other thing.
I gotta get. That's like the Freedom Wars thing. Give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Oh,
Kind of like we saw with Sanzaru with Sly 4.
Oh, there you go. Director says, I am tired of remasters. I want modern 3D games demastered to 8 or 16-bit. Imagine a COD in style of Contra.
Well, there's some people that do stuff like that.
Oh. Right. Yeah. The Halo demake was kind of cool. On like second level or something with that. So they got a ways to go. Yura says, will Freedom Wars make an appearance at TGS?
Is it on the list?
I don't. There's so much stuff at TGS this year. You see the list of vendors is like massive. So I wouldn't be shocked if it made an appearance there at some point.
I mean, it's coming out. Cool. It's coming out soon. It's January. So
January, yeah, we're 4 months away. So let's see. Fee says, stop press Wolverine remastered announced for 2026. There we see. We're getting ahead of it. Kevin says, check out Mario Bros.
Call me a grifter for plugging my book. That's not grifting.
That's advertising.
Yeah. Now.
Kevin says, check out Mario Bros. Lumina on Dreams PS4.
Remember when Dreams came to PS5?
Dreams.
Media Molecules Dreams.
You see, now Nintendo's going to go find that in Dreams.
I thought they did. I thought the whole thing was they started having to police the game because many people are making other IPs in it, and you can't do that. It's not a thing.
That was a thing.
Yeah.
Casual Noob Gamer says, I played and beat Horizon and don't remember the story. Well, the story in Horizon, the world is actually pretty interesting in Horizon. I will say that. The character is going to be hit or miss with people. Let's see. Fee says Horizon is E-rated Temu Terminator. Ryan just sitting here watching the slander hit Horizon over and over again.
It hurts.
I mean, Terminator's way better. Let's be real.
Silver Strike says, Spawn, this should stay a live show. Come on. We're going to do the pre-recorded stuff for a bit because I think we can get more people on and have a pretty good show that way too. But you never know, Silver Strike. Never know. Casual Noob Gamer says Spawn Wave Venom releases in theaters in October. Yum Yum says, I want a PlayStation fighting Rumble with all PSN characters.
I mean, they started kind of doing that and no one cared.
Yeah. Actually played that yesterday, Ryan.
Oh,
what, for a video?
No, because my kids are checking out Astrobot, and then they like Sackboy, so they're playing Sackboy's Big Adventure. I'm like, look, there's a fighting game where you as Sackboy can German suplex Cole if you want. They're like, who's Cole? I'm like, when you're older, you'll find out about Infamous. But right now, Sackboy can go around German suplexing these characters, and he does.
So random.
It is. DC Fat Cat says, I still own wow, they still have Virtua Fighter 3 TB for my copy of Project Berkeley.
3 TB is fun. I don't care what anyone says.
Wow.
I mean, they only added in 2 characters. So at the time, company or a lot of publications were like, it hasn't advanced as much as Tekken has. It's like, shut the fuck up. Look at this game. It's gorgeous.
Hey, shout out to DC Fat Cat. Green on Blue says loved local. Oh, whoops.
Cast.
Let's see.
Kind of a spoiler.
But... I like that one too. That was a good level. That's what I want people to experience randomly. No idea it's going to happen, and they get to that point.
And you just took that away from them.
I know. I just took that experience away from them. Unless, if they weren't looking at the screen, they're okay. They're listening to audio, they're okay. That was a good level, Green. I like that quite a bit. I was very happy, and I could not believe they made it at all. Like that took time to do. It wasn't just like here's real quick. No, they actually spent time on that. So gives me hope. Gives me hope. Let me go around here as we finish up. I'm going to check. I saw people in the chat. I will check Streamlabs right now. Let me start though here with Sean so we can plug his book real quick.
Yes. Go check out my book, Art of N64 Wrestling Games.
You got a link you can put in the chat if you want.
I'm on my phone. I'll do it anyways.
Oh.
Hold on. No, I could do it. It'll just take me a second. I'm also waiting. I emailed the guy at Hulk Hogan's Beach Shop. I was like, yo, I need this book signed. How do I send it to you? Because like they say they do it, but like I swear I've emailed this motherfucker before and he never got back with me.
You're going to have Hogan sign the book?
Yeah.
He's going to look at the
with
front of
his
that
pseudo likeness on the front of it,
and then you're going to get a subpoena in the mail or something.
Nah. He's all right with it. Check out the book here. Go buy it. Buy the t-shirt bundle so I can actually make a little money. Yeah, I'm gonna bitch about Concord tomorrow, so look forward to that.
Okay.
Business as usual.
Go over to, I will check Streamlabs real quick. We have 2 messages. Drew says, it's wild to think that in 1996, Twisted Metal 2 was pretty much the face of PlayStation. Now, here we are, unable to get even a sweet tooth bot in Astro. Nail in the coffin for sure for Twisted Metal.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, Twisted Metal, when the PS1 first came out, that and Tekken were like the 2 games. Like the 2 biggest games.
You gone back and try to play Twisted Metal recently, Sean?
Fuck no. I respect myself more than that.
It's crazy to think about some of the stuff we had back then, and we're like, this is incredible. And you go back and play it now, and you're like, what is going on here? It's very interesting. What about? Let me go to Ryan. Where can everyone find you, sir?
Over on YouTube at Mystic Ryan, covering the world of PlayStation every single week on Friday for Let's Talk PlayStation. This Tuesday we'll obviously do state of play, reaction, impressions, whenever the company confirms it and all that jazz. So we're kind of just on state of play watch for now. Not sure if I'll have an extra upload, but we'll be doing that. And of course, click R3 probably the following day. So
yep, keep an eye on Ryan's channel. He'll do a whole reaction stuff too. He records himself while it's going on, so I post it right away. And here we go. Adam says, thoughts on Does It Play's findings that the PS4 and Xbox One version of Jedi Survivor has the full game on the discs, and will anyone be downgrading their current gen versions? I will not. I've already beaten the game. I was quite happy with it, and I've moved on. But I assume those versions are on the disc because they were able to fit them on the disc, whereas the PS5 and Xbox Series versions are like 150 gigabytes. So they're just not going to fit on one disc. And EA does not want to ship with multiple ones because they're cheap. So there you go. That's the answer. But I still can't believe they got that game on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Still can't believe it. Let's see. Bass Music Reaction says playing MVC2 online is just like in the arcade days. Yeah.
Read the rest.
Keep getting my butt kicked, but I keep putting
That's not
in
what
quarters.
it says. That's not what it says. This man gave you $5.
Hey, it's after 11. It's not midnight yet, Sean. And
Carlos
says, I'm buying the book, RGT.
Thank you, Carlos. Appreciate
Shout out to Carlos. Shout out to Carlos. And I think I got everything here. Evan, where can everyone find you, sir?
You can find me on YouTube. We'll be talking about tabletop game stuff. There's some big releases coming up next month. I'm trying to get an hour and 15-minute long video finished about going over rules and stuff. It's going to be crazy going forward. Hopefully I get more stuff out. Or you can buy Sean's book that I did the cover for. So
he did. Credits are in the back. I don't know if you've seen it.
No, you haven't sent me my copy. I guess you're expecting me to pay for my copy.
Oh, okay, well, no. give me her address. I'll send you. You know what's funny? I didn't even send the designer one. Man. She didn't ask. She never asked. So she was like, "Oh, I can't wait to buy it on Amazon." I was like, "Oh, okay, go ahead, thank you."
go for it.
She got paid very well, though. That's why I need y'all to buy that Castlemania bundle, because she got paid well.
Okay, that's good. Well, I think that's everything there. Make sure got everyone there. We're good. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Check out everyone here on the panel down below in the description. And we will still have a live Spawncast next weekend. That'll be our last one probably for a long time. But we will have a special guest, and that should be, if everything goes according to plan, Jason Schreier should be joining us next weekend. So you definitely want to tune in because most likely Sean will be here too. And that can only spell funny
I
things.
can't wait. I'm gonna mute my mic. I'm gonna mute my mic and just sit here. It'd be great.
He unblocked me on Twitter. We're making progress.
Yes, that should be very funny. So, you guys want to come? Look at Gene.
Hey, Gene, do you want on?
So is that's not a way to send off the live show for a while while we go to pre-record. I don't know what else is. So we'll be back though next Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see you guys then.